Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. This one we're going to date stamp as year 2 blog 50, so not long now before we reach year 3. In legacy numbers, it's blog 102. Yeah, that's 102 of this sort of like random rant and talking I tend to go through. And it's dated 4th of February 2024. We've reached February already. My God, I in my memory I still have, well, from my point of view, the disaster that was Christmas and New Year and my birthday all gone. And but we've got every day is a new day, so I can't complain. Happy to still be around, and I think what I'm most pleased about is that I'm looking out my window now, and the sun is out. It's not too cold. Um, that therefore means that I'll be driving to work and coming home in the light again. Even though, to be quite honest, since returning back to work, I now have to travel to work less. I'm working at home, which has its own hurdles. My mother can't get up the stairs as well as she used to, and me working at home means I need to have quiet. There are times when I might be talking in a meeting about sensitive information that is only to be heard by myself and my teammates. And of course, my mother will need to use the toilet, and the only downstairs toilet is in my room. So there are sort of like hurdles for me to address, but they're so minor. I bring them up really just so my nieces and nephews really recognize some of the things that are still difficult to me, even at my age. And yes, with my birthday just gone, I rapidly move forward towards 60. So, but hey, don't look too far ahead. Appreciate what is now. I think that's been drummed into me since a very early age. And it didn't mean that much to me when I was younger. I always was rushing to get forward. There was always somebody that would turn around and say, "Oh, I bet you can't wait until you're 25 when your car insurance goes down." Or, "Oh, when you get to 18, you'll be able to go to the pubs, go night clubbing. You'll be getting a job, earning money." All sorts of things have been mentioned that have gone, "Oh, I can't wait to get to there." And when you get there, there's another milestone for you to reach. And to be quite honest, you're just chasing time away to the point where I don't want it to go fast anymore. But it just seems to be going that way. It's all a perception. Nothing's going faster. It's, I suppose I'm sleeping more, even though I've got sleep apnea, however you pronounce it. And I tend to find I'm sleeping during the day, so I'm missing all that lovely sun. Let's hope when I get some time off in the summer that when I am sleeping during the day, at least I'm appreciating it in the garden, because the garden is starting to come into my mind again. That garden project that I did last year is itching for me to start again. And I don't have too many ideas about it, but I'm sure it'll come to me. Every time I go into Sainsbury's or Morrison's or Tesco or garden centres, I tend to be looking at the seeds and looking at plants, and people are always sort of like giving me advice as well, about when to start. that it never ends, that there's always something to do. So yeah, I shouldn't really ever get bored. And then there's all the stuff that you've got to learn at work. So yeah, busy times ahead. And this is all packaged up into the excitement of what I plan to do this year. More 8-bit years, more 16-bit years, more gaming related stuff. But also, I mustn't forget that there are the films and TV shows that people have all recommended to me that I need to start buckling down and doing. But priorities. That'll come up a little bit later on. I had a comment about a priority this time. I think it's still there. I never got rid of it. But yeah, priorities. I do count one of my major priorities is my mother, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So how do we start? We always start with the news, don't we? So we won't change that. The Ukraine war is still going. I always turn around and said that until the war ends, I will never let it be forgotten. It's sort of like where my blog started. There's a big plane going over. I don't know if you can hear that by the speaker. Wow. Can't see it, but wow, that's noisy. So anyway, the war. So this is what I picked up in the news articles just before going live. A Tu-95 bomber pilot has been shot in the Russian city of Engels, according to Ukraine military intelligence. The commander of the bomber was shot. He is directly involved in launching missile strikes on civilians in Ukraine and killing our people, the GUR said. They continued, retribution always against war criminals. And they continued to say that they know where these people are, their family are, their lives. Very dirty, very vengeful comment. And I can understand. There was a Ukraine prisoner of war shot down without the Russians telling them that they were carrying them over, land that is active for battles at the moment. All of this sort of stuff, it's not needed. Okay, fighting for fighting's sake, but underhand and dirty. Yeah, it's nasty. We don't want this war anymore. We want it to be gone. Let's hope that's around the corner. Lots of UK news, really, but nothing really that gripped me. I listened less and less to the radio because I was in more meetings at work. So background noise is turned off. I don't have Alexa or anything on when I'm in a meeting. So the things I picked up upon are owners of American XL bully dogs had just hours left to apply for certificates of exemption on Wednesday as new laws started on Thursday. Yes, it's the end of January, beginning of February. A new law came in December. All owners of this type of dog breed needed to apply for exemption certificates. It incurred new costs for insurance, neutering, muzzles for the owners, etc., etc. I hope for these dog owners that I feel sorry that they can't appreciate their dogs like other dog owners. They have to jump through these hoops. But then I heard of all the atrocities that happened all in 1 month. It was a big news story about attacks on small children and so forth. The people they need to blame are the people that didn't keep these dogs under heel and basically bred them to the point where they couldn't control them. And here we are now with all sorts of things going on to keep these dogs under control. Very sad. That's all I can say about that. Other news, Northern Ireland appointed an Irish nationalist as the first minister for the first time in history on Saturday. Yes, since Brexit and the dissolvement of the Irish Parliament, they've been trying to get that back together. They're now finally moving forward. The borders and everything that happened because of Brexit seem to be settling down, and the Parliament is moving forward. A good news, a bad news story. It depends on how you look at it. I wish them well. Ireland. I've got a number of friends from Ireland. So, hey, let's hope that there's a bright future for that. And finally, just a fun little story. I saw an anniversary of Fawlty Towers on Channel 5 yesterday, and I looked at the news this morning, and there was an article that said Fawlty Towers, the stage show, is to open on the London West End in May. Yes, there was a scare story last year that John Cleese was going to bring back Fawlty Towers, and it was with his daughter, and all of a sudden there was retractions on it's a fort, it's been brought up, I'm not sure at this stage, and lo and behold, 9-10 months later, Fawlty Towers on the stage is coming. Totally different beast. And from that point of view, hey, that's good. I like stage shows. I went to see Only Fools and Horses on the stage. I thought that wouldn't work, and it did, for me anyway. I found it very enjoyable. I didn't think anybody could fill the shoes of the TV show. But when you take the TV show out of your mind, the actors that you grew up with, and follow it as the characters, just like the actors had to do when they were inventing them in the first place, it works. You know, the musical numbers grated on me. I don't see comedies with musicals too much, but you've got to appease to a wider audience, and you've also got to fill up the time. You know, there's only so much you can do on the stage, so many sets you can do. You need sort of like songs and catchy numbers and all of that sort of stuff to keep the sets down to a minimum and to build up that time. So brilliant. I look forward to Fawlty Towers on the stage. I think that actually would work quite well, being set in a hotel or a motel or whatever. It's Fawlty Towers Hotel. So yeah, look forward to that one. And finally, the bad news that we all heard on the 1st of February, Carl Weathers died at the age of 76. Carl Weathers was big to me because I was a big fan of Rocky. I mean, I'm not going to turn around and say that he was the biggest actor of all time. You know, a wide range of roles that he could play. No. But you have those type of actors that come along that sort of like stick with you just because of one particular character. And for me, that will always be Apollo Creed in Rocky. But looking at this, very prolific. You know, he did the Rockies. He played in the first Predator film. I mean, my God, you're talking about a range, you know, or an IP, you know, of a set of films. Can't get bigger than Rocky. Then you went to Predator, and that's another one. Huge IP. And then, of course, you've got Action Jackson. Here's one of his first attempts at trying to be an action star himself. And I tell you what, the amount of bad news and bad press that film got. But I watched it when it first came out and poo-pooed it myself. It wasn't particularly great. And then watched it years later and thought, you know what, that was entertaining. It was during that period of time where I thought, don't listen to the critics. Sit by yourself, watch it, see if you enjoy it. And I put the popcorn on, got myself a drink, sat in front of a nice big TV, put it on, bang, loved it. Thought it was great. And then when you look back, you tend to find that this actor was been around for a lot longer than you thought. Apparently, he was in early episodes of Kung Fu. He was a dealer as well in an episode of Starsky and Hutch. He was a marshal. Blink and you'll miss him in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then, of course, there's this recent stuff. He did the voice to Colonel, what was his name? Combat Carl, that's it. I couldn't remember the name. Combat Carl in Toy Story. But, of course, I saw him recently in Mandalorian and thought he was great in that. But as a comedy role, somebody that tried to do a bit of comedy, you can't forget Chubbs Peterson, the trainer for Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore. I've never been a big Adam Sandler fan, but I've always found fun in Happy Gilmore. And I watched that this week, and it was a joy to go back to it and see some of the comedy elements in there. And that brings us to the end of the news. Rest in peace, Carl Weathers, another childhood person gone from my life, and sadly we missed, but always will be remembered. And we move to the shout outs. Always appreciative of all these shout outs that I give, because these people have left comments and left me questions, wonder how I am, wishing me well. And so without further ado, the shout outs this week are to Martroid, Robert's Retro Gaming, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Ian Hill The Ramblings, Down the Rabbit Hole, Alice Lira, a new one, and Denny. Thank you so much for commenting this week. It's one of the joys that I get at the end of the week to look at the comments that have been brought in throughout the week. Commenting about last week's blog, bringing their own flavour to this blog, because I do read out the comments. And we're going to do that right now. So that's a nice segue. I'm just going to grab a drink and we'll start reading those out. Oh, that's better. So, I never put these in any order. It's always as I've opened the page. So the first one is from my good mate Denny. Brilliant. So this will be chapter and verse. Brilliant. I like those. Gives me a lot to read, a lot to think about, a lot to discuss. So Denny goes, "Hey mate, sorry for the last minute notes. Not been too well this week with my joints and blood pressure. My head felt like a spinning top most of yesterday. Anyways, I hope you and your mother are well." Sorry to hear that, matey. Yeah, I've not been feeling well myself. I found it hard walking. I don't know if it's because I've got, like my friend Rock God, some type of chest infection. I've been feeling a burn here as I start to labour with my breathing as I'm walking. I'm walking through that. It gets better as I breathe in the fresh air. The further I go in my walk, the easier it becomes. It comes back later on. I'm not going to the doctor as yet. I think it is just a mild chest infection. I do a COVID test every week. I haven't got COVID. So, my mother also has a bit of a cold. And I've been snivelly for the last 3 weeks, but I think most people have heard it through my nose. Snivelling and so forth. So I think it's just something that'll go away. The weather will change. The walking will get me my fresh air. The amount of tablets I'm on, I'm surprised any bug can survive. To be quite honest, I take nearly 12, 14 tablets a day. Blood pressure, cholesterol, painkillers. They've all got paracetamol or whatever it is in them. There's no antibiotics in there, but if it gets worse and worse, I'll continue. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about you here, Denny. Sad news to start off again this week with the news of the death of Carl Weathers, that most know as Apollo from the Rocky films, Predator and The Mandalorian. Fantastic actor, and he'll be a big loss to the industry. Yes, and I've just mentioned my own little sort of tribute to him. He will be missed. He was a fan favourite and definitely one of mine favourites when I'm ever watching the Rockies and so forth. You continue. Check out a film called Hypnotic, starring Ben Affleck, if you haven't already seen it. Something a little different and enjoyable. Runtime is about an hour and a half. I think you will enjoy it. It's noted. I'm definitely... Well, after I play a little game after this blog, and I'll mention that a little bit later on because I talk about my gaming, I will be watching 2 films today. Going to make sure that on Sunday I wind down. I tend to find I get caught up with sort of watching other people's YouTube stuff, and it's got to stop. There's a point where I've got to watch my own stuff, to have my own ideas, to have my own thoughts portrayed in my own stuff. I'll still keep with the mainstay stuff, but it's just that I do too much sometimes, and I heavily want the community to get together, and I heavily therefore promote stuff. It's not to imbues my will on people. It's just that I think you might find some entertainment in it. But anyway, I digress again. We move forward. Jumping ahead a little to your trailers and pickups from last week, I have to watch The Proposition. Love a good Western. Mansion of the Doom I already have as part of my Charles Band Empire Pictures collection. Your Columbia 4K set has one of my favourite films of all time, To Sir With Love, with Sidney Poitier. Number 2 is good too. This time set in the USA. The Last Picture Show, shot in black and white with Sybil Shepherd and Jeff Bridges, is another great watch. Yeah, you've mentioned some of the films that I called the lesser films because I looked at it as, I think it's as good as it gets as being the mainstay for me with Jack Nicholson and the ensemble cast in there is just great. I think it's Helen Hunt, is it? No. Yeah, it is. But I did say From Here to Eternity is a classic. Annie is a classic. To Sir With Love is a classic. I've seen a lot of those, but not multiple watches. So buying something as big as that box set, and I bought it in advance of the Columbia Volume 4, which is going to have Starman in it, is something to look forward to, isn't it? Watching something new. You continue. Glad you've managed to snag a copy of Phase 4. It supposedly has a much better picture quality than the 101 film release. Plus, this has the 84-minute theatrical version. Is available on both the UHD and the Blu-ray discs, and an exclusive slipcover. Yes, you mentioned yesterday about Phase 4, and Phase 4 is one of those films that is not for everybody. I know Rock God hates it with a passion. He says the sound track is a nothing track. It's just sounds. The film makes him itch and finds no enjoyment out of it whatsoever. And I can understand that. It's not for everybody. To me, I first saw Phase 4 on Moviedrome. It was a BBC Two show talking about cult films. A lot of my films I have great enjoyment through that TV series. I remember them doing Logan's Run, Soylent Green, Omega Man, um, Blade Runner. All sorts were in this series that was on BBC Two. And although a lot of them I'd seen at the cinema, it was good to see things like the Andromeda Strain and so forth that I missed and I've got first time watches from. Phase 4 is one of those films, all about ants. It does make you itch. You do see lots of footage of ant hills, inside the ant hills, what's going on with the queen, while this other thing is going on in regards to how ants talk to each other and the sounds they make and all that sort of stuff. It's a good watch, but I do understand also people's hatred for it. Personally, for me, it's a great watch, a great film. So he continues. I've subbed to Dan Monroe Media Master Designs YouTube channel. The Planet of the Apes TV series and what happened to it was absolutely superb. I picked up things I never knew about. Plus, there were other videos based on Lost in Space. Great channel for anyone who loves these. Yeah, this is that thing where I was talking about that. I came across the channel, saw it was about Planet of the Apes, looked at another video which was about the day the Earth stood still, and a number of other films and TV shows, and thought it was great and mentioned it in my blog in a hope that that would encourage other people to watch. Here we go. Dennis picked up upon that and has started to watch it and is getting great enjoyment. It's good that that happens. It cheers me up, makes me smile, no end. He continues. I liked how Sapphire and Steel was brought up again last week in your blog. For me, it was that ending. For me, it has that ending Blake Seven has. Quite different and unique to what most programs were doing back then. Yes, a sort of a cliffhanger ending that leaves you not knowing quite what happened. Did they all survive? Are they trapped in time forever? All of that sort of stuff. It is a good way to do it because it does open it up for interpretation. Interpretation means it could come back. For these two shows it didn't, which means that it ended satisfactory, really wise, because you can make your own ending up. I'm not saying that every show should be like that. Definitely shows deserve a full, complete ending if it's going to end. But so how many times have we seen Hollywood or TV channels bring back something and they've got the dilemma of how do we restart that? Do you know? So, yeah. We move on. Loved Ian's question from last week regarding the mags you had back then. I used to buy literally 20 to 30 per month, including Starburst, TV Zone, DWB, Dreamwatch, plus many computer mags. Great memories. These days, printed media is terrible. Even Retro Gamer is going south. Yeah, and I'm surprised by the number, 20 to 30. Yeah, I didn't buy that many. I'd say that I was in the teens, though, 13, 14, that sort of bracket. Loved keeping ahead of the game when there was no internet, knowing that next month I needed to save for this. This TV show's coming back in the autumn. This new show is coming along and it's going to be a huge hit. This film is coming out in the summer. All sorts. I picked it up. I lapped it up. Couldn't wait until that issue would come out. And it was almost like I was going to the newsagent every day, because there was the comics, Spider-Man Comic Weekly, Mighty World of Marvel, little Commando, little magazine that I used to buy that my good friend Steve reminded me of a few months back. Then there was the odd occurrence of the Beano Eagle, you know. So there was those, and then there was the big magazines, you know, Starburst, Fangoria, the computer magazines, PC Zone, Zap, Crash, and you know, I kept it going for as long as I could, and I believe the magazine people tried to as well, until we're down to the point where the internet has taken over. And it's sad, because nothing beats having the physical media, I don't care what anybody says, in your hands, and you can turn the pages, you can smell that paper. It's hard to explain. You have to do it yourself. But I've got comics from 1962 upstairs. You open up that paper and it's got this dead wood pulp sort of like smell, which is not unpleasant. It's like, oh wow, yeah, that's that's old, but it's a musty sort of smell. It's great, brilliant, and yes, in some ways the internet has destroyed another thing that I loved. So yeah. As for the shop, Game. They have literally shot themselves in the foot and no doubt put a nail in their coffin when they decided to stop selling second-hand games. Management of companies these days are atrocious. Can't see them lasting much longer. Yeah, the death knell was there when they moved into our local sports shop. Forgotten what they're called now. It'll come to me in a minute. But Game, along with Game Station, along with independent computer shops, and along with Currys and Comet, were all mainstays of mine, to look at the computer games. And Game was one of those ones that was going to go. I bought a shitload of stuff when they were originally going to go, because they had so much of those special edition statue versions of a game that went suddenly from £150 to let's get it out the door at 40 quid. I bought Skirum, the big dragon statue, for £45 when Game were going to go under the first time. And they came back. Game Station went. Game remained. And it's just the nature of the beast. I think too many of the console manufacturers are controlling what we don't want to see, which is you will embrace digital media and you will embrace downloading it and us not giving you a physical copy anymore. I don't agree with that. Why am I renting a game from you? Because every time that I'm doing that, I know that I'm renting, that they can turn the servers off, remove that particular game from the library, and I've lost it. And especially on consoles, it's much more difficult to back it up. And therefore, it's a much harder job to archive it. So yeah, physical media has always been my thing. So, and I don't see that changing. Question for this week. I've watched The Last Man on Earth this week and now watched all versions of the Richard Matheson story. Which, in your opinion, fits the film premiere better? The Last Man on Earth's disease that turns humans into vampires, the Omega Man's biological war that left infected humans as zombie-like creatures, turning them albino, or I Am Legend's cure for cancer that mutated victims. I tried to answer this last week, but I got a bit dizzy and forgot about it, to be quite honest, and so my apologies to you, Denny, for it. But I did give you an answer in text form, but I'm happy to sort of like express it here. And that is that I've read the book a couple of times, but it's the essence of the book that matters to me. And in all three films you've mentioned there, the essence is there. I think it's Richard Matheson's own philosophy and words where he expressed his dislike for The Last Man on Earth, the very first adaptation of his book with Vincent Price. He's in the titles because he wrote some of the screenplay, but he came away dissatisfied, he said. He couldn't quite put his finger on it. I think he said too many changes. But he said he was happy with the outcome because the story got out there, and as a whole, the essence was there. And I have to then look at that word essence and go, yeah, do you know what? He's right. You're never going to get a true adaptation of the book. As we move forward, it's more likely that something like this that's going to happen, where he thinks he's the last man on Earth, is going to happen because of war, biological war, pandemics, etc. And I think if we've learned anything from COVID, the pandemic is probably the more likely. So I can only really answer the question by saying which one of the three films is my favourite, and The Omega Man stays my favourite. I don't know if it's because of the actor, I don't know if it's because of the time, and it was the fact it was the first one I saw. But it's just something about that film. I love the Ron Grainer score. Charlton, brilliant in it. It's a dystopian future. I could believe what was mentioned in regards to how the disease started, how he believes he is the cure. I like the idea of the albino nature, so that you could distinctly see that they had turned based on the disease on the streets. The very nature of him going out and having any car he wants, fuel from any petrol station. It's to me, it's the quintessential one, but not the closest. In some ways, I think you have to go back to the well and say that The Last Man on Earth is probably closer. But yeah, there's lots to like in all three films. And with that, I'm going to say salute to you. Thank you so much, Denny. Absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed bringing back all those memories. Absolutely fantastic. But we move on because we've got my next victim I'm going to mention. And that's Ian the Hill Ramblings. He says, and I quote, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are keeping well. Thanks for the shout out and the enjoyable blog, and I hope you had a good week where you could enjoy your passions. I know that is not always easy since life can get in the way. However, I think if we owe it to ourselves to try and find our own me time. It's good for our sanity and soul." Yeah, I did tell you that there was going to be more of me talking about priorities. I have spent more time this week doing some things for me, playing games, sorting some things out, as well as, like looking after my mum and getting chores around the house done. You can't keep putting off sharpening those cutlery blades, getting rid of rust on stuff, those little pet projects, mending fences, starting to, get the garden prepped. All of that sort of stuff. Can't stop. Always something. Get some fresh air. Get out there. Do it. I was thinking this week about when I was at school, how some things we learnt then are now redundant. When I was 10 years old, I got a proper typewriter. There was something I loved about it. The make was Imperial, a portable blue machine. I just learnt to myself to type. I enjoyed it. Now at school, we had become more comprehensive, and girls were given shorthand and typing classes, and boys had to do woodwork, which I hated. Keyboard skills could only be gained if you were a girl. I remember there was a special classroom full of typewriters with boys excluded. It was the same with cooking, which had the old-fashioned term home economics aimed at girls. So these classes we had in our school are now redundant, part of a bygone era. It was like the time the teaching of Latin had gone. It's ironic that years later, when studying history, I had to gain a basic understanding of it in research when looking at primary source documents. So a part of me misses that typewriter. Now, some models are considered retro collectibles. My upgrade from the typewriter seemed a massive leap. It used the term word processor, had a keyboard and a small screen. This seemed amazing. It's not sure where my train of thought is going with this, but it brings me to my question. So we'll stop there for a minute because I don't want to read the question out without sort of just answering some things there. Yes, redundancy on things that we learn. I've mentioned it before, and it's a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. But when I went to primary school, we learnt the alphabet, we learnt the numbers, just like Sesame Street would teach you. But we did handwriting class. It was like 40 minutes per week, and we had to have a little book and a fountain pen with ink, and we had to learn italic handwriting. Now, I was never very good at it, I remember it all, the A was go across, down, up, down, tick for a little thing, and B was down and then up, across, down, up. See what I mean? It had the same sort of like head of the A, but turned the other way round, etc., etc. But I was so slow at it that when I got to secondary school, when we were writing things off the board, I couldn't keep up. I still tried to use those basic skills, handwriting, when my normal handwriting should have now taken over, and that should have been left in the doldrums of calligraphy. So there's something, and I swear blind that certain doctors wrote in italic handwriting at primary school, because if you've ever read a doctor's prescription note, you can't read it. It's ridiculous. It's just squiggles. How the chemist is supposed to go, that's cocodamol, is it? Bloody hell. There you go. They don't put any ISBN numbers or reference numbers or whatever it is, ISBN being book reference numbers. So it's funny that you mentioned typewriters, because we had typewriters at school as well. And I remember them with their arms that came up. You pressed down on the A, an arm would come out and it would strike the roller at the in front of you that had the paper roll round. And then when I went to work at Lloyd's Bank, they still had secretaries not using word processors, but they had typewriters with golf balls, with the letters on golf balls. And you changed, if you wanted it in a different font, you changed the ball out. There was a little clip. You pulled the clip, the ball came totally out. You got another one, pulled the clip out, put it in, put the clip back on, and it was a different thing. My next door neighbours had some of the first early word processors. The ones with the LCD screens that were done by Sharp, I think, and a number of and Xerox, Canon, I think. They were expensive, and I believe I only saw them because they were my next door neighbours were in management roles, so they carried these devices around with them. But there's a lot of stuff, yeah. Polaroid cameras that are no longer around. Getting film for cameras is difficult these days. We all talk about DSLR cameras and mirrorless cameras now, pure digital, and yet film is such a big thing. Kodak went bust because people bought less and less of their product. I think they came back, they were bought out from the brink. But, you know, if we didn't have people like Kodak, we wouldn't have films being made. We'd all go totally digital. So I'm probably going too far in one direction with this. The word processor that comes to mind that I remember the most would be on my Amiga and on the PCW8256, I think it was. I used to go into a shop and buy my Amiga games, and this was a shop that had PCW word processors in, plus Amstrad's own PC line, along with, you know, the 8-bit computers of the time, the Commodore, the Spectrum, and so forth. So yeah, it's sad when things go, but if it's replaced with something that moves us forward, it's not a bad thing, because we can always remember it. We can always use it, especially with handwriting, you know. So thank you so much, Ian. Brilliant. We'll come up with your channel in a little bit. I've been watching you. And I thank you so much for your comment and question. Very, very thoughtful, very insightful. So we moved to Robert's Retro Gaming. He stated, Del, sorry I forgot to congratulate you on the big 100th episode. So allow me to congratulate you on the big 101st instead. I seem to watch your blog in 10 to 20 minute chunks these days, and often on the go when I'm driving. So I don't really get to make a big consolidated comment about the various things that pop into my head as I listen to you. What that means, because I'm old like you, is that I don't remember what I wanted to say later on. I've heard this quite a few times, and it's okay. It's fine. It's nice that you thought about me enough to download something to listen to in the car, or stream it into your car as you're driving to work, and listen to this mindless drivel, which a lot of it is, while you're going to work. I hope it entertains. I do miss a good question from you. I would love it that you could take time out of your day and sit down and go, I'm going to listen specifically and directly on Del's blog and see if anything motivates me, I'll write it down. That would be brilliant. But my blog is to be used as other people want to use it. It's there to listen to in segments. It's there to listen to as a whole thing. As long as you're listening, that's the thing, isn't it? Really, as long as the word is getting out there. You continue. Royalty, eh? I don't know about that, but I'll take it. Regarding my output, because I don't really do any prep or editing. If I record as I play, I get a bunch of episodes out of one play session. I actually finished playing Euphoria about a month ago, but the episodes are still trickling out because I don't want to publish them all at once. Same sort of thing with Minecraft, although I will often play that without recording, until something that I think will be at least mildly interesting occurs to me. Don't feed the trolls. People seem to be very willing to like morons online. Yes, we'll try not to do that from now on, Rob. It's just sometimes you do have to sound out. Sometimes there are things that need to be mentioned. But I totally get it, yeah. You are royalty in a way, Robert. How many people could you say out there dedicate to just one type of company or machine like Atari? And from that point of view, you're a quintessential source or point of interest to go to when the word Atari comes up. That it's something that you should bow down and honour, you know, the respectability that comes from that statement, because that is what it is to me. If I've got any question about Atari, I know it's you I'll go to. I can look it up myself, Atari wiki, all the .org sites, the countless YouTube videos. But why do that when you can go to one place and just get it from the horse's mouth, the main well, as they say. Some great movies there, you continue, but we'll give the horror stuff a miss as usual. Proposition looks well worth a watch though, for sure. Yeah, I'm learning about horror, and it's probably why there's a lot of horror in my trailers at the moment, because I'm tending to try to watch one horror film per week as I move through my journey of stuff I've missed, because I've watched so much sci-fi and comedies and dramas and action that particular genre is sort of, they used to be so prominent, has now sort of like become backwards, or taking a step back in my life, not the rest of the world, but my own life. So I'm getting caught up, and I'm having a blast getting caught up. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. We'll move on now to LFC Gamer and Vlogs. And salute to you, Robert. So LFC says, excellent show casting as per normal, Del. I hope all is great with you and your mum. Many apologies for not as frequent in recent times. I've had to prioritise with work-related issues, which has affected my mental well-being somewhat. But things are certainly heading in the more positive direction. Not this week, but on the 9th or the 8th of February, I'm taking a 4-day trip to London. To Llandudno, sorry. So, touch wood, the weather doesn't hamper the holiday too much. A great variation of films. Death Becomes Her is brilliant. One of the better performances from Goldie Hawn, as is The First Wives Club. Questions for your next blog, matey. Does it get on your nerves when people have to start every single conversation with "I think"? 2, I think you're quite the fan of Elton John, but is there one song by him that you feel is weaker compared to his other stuff? Number 3, what were some of the first Blu-ray films you ever bought? Wow, 3 great questions there. I've got to get my head together. Let's see. Does it get on your nerves when people have to start every single conversation with "I think"? I try not to. I do know it's a common thing to start a sentence with. Well, do you know, I think, you must have heard that a lot of times. To me, I wonder to myself whether they understand what the word "think" means when they open their gob. So it doesn't get to me, but I look at it as a commonality and don't take it as a God-given right that they actually did think at all. Number 2, I know you're quite a fan of Elton John, but is there one song for me by him that you feel is weakened compared to the other stuff? Thinking back at a portfolio as large as Elton John's, there are a number of songs that don't make sense. Take Me to the Pilot being one. Never a fan of mine, Take Me to the Pilot. The tune is okay. The words I don't understand. I don't think he understands. It's been talked about. I've read about it. I get it. But at the time when I was listening to it, I just found it a weak song with weak lyrics that was more album filler than anything. But who am I to say? Because I believe it's one of those ones that went up the charts quite quickly and ended up being quite high. So I'm going to mention that one for the Elton John side of things. And then you go, what were some of the first Blu-ray films that you bought? Now, that's a much harder question. And the reason for that is I remember buying my first DVD player because it replaced, in a way, my Laserdisc player. and therefore films like The Matrix had just come out. So I started to not buy laserdiscs and buy DVDs. But when it comes to Blu-rays, Blu-rays is a convoluted time in my life, because not only did I have a HD player, I had a Blu-ray player, I had a laserdisc player, and a DVD player, all fighting for my attention. And I bought into HD DVD first because of my Xbox 360, and the first film I got was the one that came with the drive, which was King Kong by Peter Jackson. So we are talking some time back. But it's harder when you start talking about Blu-ray, because Blu-ray came out 18 months later in PlayStation's own console. And from that point of view, I didn't buy that many Blu-rays. There were some that I bought, some that were secondhand in Game Station. And I loved every single one of them when they came through. The picture quality was astounding. So that ends that, and I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come back in a moment. We are about the halfway point when you consider the comments that I've just read coming up. And I'll be back shortly. And we continue. So we then get to Down the Rabbit Hole. And he states, "Great stuff as always, Del. My UK trip will be likely the first of a couple of trips out there. This one is a bit morbid. It's us touring family members who are still alive, because COVID did remove a few names from our list. So less of a fun social visit and more of a family responsibility one. But the next time we come, we'll be definitely hanging out with friends and seeing many sights. Absolutely up for a chat on the phone when I come. Now I have to roll up my sleeves and fulfill your promise that I release 3 videos a week. Crikey. Just kidding. Yeah. It's just I did notice the pattern that it was like 3 a week, and I was going, wow, I wish I could do 3 a week. I could. I'm just finding this sleep problem making it difficult for me. I'm sure what it is that I'm exercising my brain an awful lot at work, and because I'm not sleeping well at night, I switch off, turn the telly on, get caught up with the phone, and all of a sudden I'm waking up with the phone in my hand, and the telly's moved forward by about 3 hours, and the time's gone, and it's night time, and the light's not brilliant. And I like to do my videos with daylight. I'm sure many might have noticed that since I've got this new camera, the picture quality is so much better with daylight. So yeah, just one of the problems that I have. But yeah, you do great content, and it's always of much better quality. I like raw stuff, but I do like to also see stuff with high production values. And absolutely, I hope we have a phone call. My God, I could have a phone call with you now, to be quite honest. There's WhatsApp, there's Discord, there's all sorts of stuff. And I've spoken to Robert in the past. It's not like it's impossible. I just tend to find that most people I communicate always is by text or written. And I tend to find that I'm not a wordsmith. So, I do like to chat. I don't think anybody could turn around and say that I don't talk a lot, because I do. So thank you. Salute to you. Salute to LFC as well. And we move to Alice Lira. Now, this one was a strange one. It came during the week, and it was all in weird characters, which I found out was Japanese. I thought, maybe somebody's put something naughty here. So I used a translator, and it was great. What they actually said was, "Greetings, been watching your videos, and I love watching them." So, of course, I put my own message back in Japanese back, for which I got a couple of hearts. So to you, Alice, thank you very much. I hope you got great enjoyment out of it. I hope you stay around. But if this was a one-time visit, if you got entertainment out of it, I did a great job. That's all I can say, and thank you so much. And salute to you. I did look at your channel as well. You got some beautiful cats. My God, and aren't they playful? Thank you very much for your comment. And we moved to Martroid, and Martroid has put, interesting seeing your notes for the L&H deep dive, Del. Yeah, the Laurel and Hardy deep dive, which was a highlight of a couple of weeks ago now. Really loved it. Bought a couple of books out of it. I had a book already, but I thought, right, okay, I'll buy some more books. It's a huge chunk of my life that I haven't read that much about other than on the internet. So I had this book that I'd had for a couple of years. Decided to go on Amazon and buy another book. It was very expensive, but it was from the past. It was a hardback edition out of print. And they sent me a paperback, newer print of it. I'll show you it here. It's the complete films of Laurel and Hardy. Totally different picture, totally different format. It's paperback. And they charged me 20 odd pounds for it. And looking around, I can buy this secondhand, this book, for about £5 or £6. So I contacted Amazon and said, hey, this book is a reprint. It's not 20 inches by 28 inches in hardback format, which is what I was expecting. And so I will be sending it back, for which they said, we'll refund you. Not a problem. I was expecting them to say, well, here's a label. And they said, no, you can keep the book. So I got that book for nothing. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Amazon. It's appreciated. I got another book out of it, and it's not the one I wanted, but it has the same content as the one that I wanted. So it saves me a job of looking for that now, unless I do see, I will look in libraries where they sell off their books. I believe a lot of libraries have got books based on film that they do downsize on occasion. I did check, and we do have a library still in my hometown. It's much smaller, but that doesn't stop me from going to my nearest city, which would be Oxford, and going there and doing a little bit of thrift shopping. So that's down on my list of things to do. Thank you so much, Martroid. Always a pleasure getting a comment from you. Always a pleasure knowing that you're watching. Thank you so much. And we get to the last comment, and it's from my friend Colin, aka Ponder. So we'll read it out verbatim if I can. He goes, I think that's what he meant. An agency worker for Royal Mail didn't even wait 20 seconds to pick up my package and steal it before Christmas, and got away with it. Royal Mail just treating it as a lost parcel. Seller has to claim compensation but won't, so still awaiting PayPal appeals process 2 months later. Pompey salute, naughty naughty. That's from Pompeii. So I do get that. And I do realise all of that was going on. I think I've mentioned verbatim what was going on in your life, Colin, and I wanted people to understand that for all these things that the Royal Mail are going through at the moment, they what's that term? Cut their nose to spite their face, something like that, because they hire people at Christmas. They don't do background checks. They only need to send a text message to somebody that they know to say I'm going to be delivering a big parcel. It's gone in seconds. The person that is left with the bill is the person that was waiting for the parcel, and that you having to go through all the hoops that you mention here, such as the PayPal appeal. So yeah, you've had a disastrous time, and it's one that I've felt very strongly about and very remorseful about, in the fact that it's hurting my friend. So yeah, I'm got no qualms about mentioning it again during this blog. C64 did have Manic Miner. I clearly remember nagging my aunt for an advance to buy it. It took me a week to complete, and I'm still playing it after that. Yeah, it's one of those things where I never didn't acknowledge that the C64 didn't have Manic Miner. What I said was it didn't have its own Manic Miner in the way that was a first for the Spectrum. I mean, if you look at it, Manic Miner came out, it was based around Bounty Bob. The C64 had Bounty Bob, but it was different to Bounty Bob. The C64 had Chucky Egg. The C64 had a number, but the closest you'd get was Blagger, and it was a knockoff. I don't count knockoffs. So when Manic Miner did come out, it was a hollow thing to have. It was months later. It wasn't at the time. By this point, my friends had been playing Manic Miner for months and months and months and had moved on. It wasn't until Jet Set Willy came out that we had any sort of like same time release, if you see what I mean, where you could play it at the same time as others. I believe Jet Set Willy still wasn't on the day of release, it was around that time. So it's not that I didn't acknowledge Manic Miner on the C64. I was acknowledging that it was games with names for rooms where Manic Miner was a release after the fact, and wasn't invented for that machine. Do you see where I'm coming from? So yeah, but glad to clarify that. I don't take great delight in pointing out flaws, but I do take great delight when someone learns from pointing these things out. I will say that Has Been Hotel has taken an interesting turn, and I'm really looking forward to the last 2 episodes of the season. The song in episode 6, where Charlie and Ellen harmonise, is very powerful. Yes, and it's down for me to watch tonight. I've actually got it all bookmarked for me to do so. Macros count as code. They do, but it's not a language. It's not a language like Basic is a language. When I'm doing a macro in Excel, in Visual Basic, I am setting up dimensions of forms, and the forms themselves have fields, but I'm not defining the graphics. I'm not defining the sound. I'm not defining the sprite collision detection like a game would be, and I'm not writing a word processor from scratch. I'm putting in code that really is a function. So it's code, but not a language that I would consider a language like Forth or Basic or Machine Code or C++. C++ is a language, take it like that. And I had great difficulty with it, and it's why I know I'd never be a coder. Never be a coder. I had Big Track, superb toy, got so much use until it broke an axle, and it never worked right after that. Yeah, I had Big Track. I wanted the trailer, never got the trailer. Too expensive for my parents. We weren't an expensive, a wealthy family. My dad had to do so much overtime for me for Christmas presents. I'll always thank him for that. He's gone. He'll never be forgotten in my life. And the things he had to do to make me happy, it's just astonishing. think only a parent can understand it, and I'm not a parent. So I can only give my appreciation the way that I can, and that's with the remorse and the thankfulness of it all. I've lost point. Where is it? Oh, I inquired at my local dentist for an estimate for what I want, and it's not as much as I expected. I expected 4 figures, but was told that much was unlikely, though it will be several hundred. Yes, it's several hundred for me. I have done a call to them. I have just been paid. I have got some savings, but it's probably going to be mid-February when I'm going to be able to do it, because I need to move some stuff around cash-wise. My kerfuffle video published Saturday was Snake Pit. 10-yard fight was ages ago. I guess YouTube is pushing old stuff out again as if it's new. Yeah, I do apologise for that. I always look for your stuff. It came up in an alert. I thought it was new. It was pushing something old of yours. I've cleared cache, got rid of stuff that I've listed as I've watched that I don't think I'll ever watch again, and newer stuff is now starting to appear in my alert stream. So thanks very much for that, and thank you for being so polite about that, because I know I wouldn't like it very much. I suppose that somebody says, I just watched your latest blog and I really like your blonde hair, knowing full well that was 2 years ago. Not nice. So thank you very much for being courteous about that. You have 2 videos from me this week, vlog and cycling. So I hope you enjoy these. Ha 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 3, because you did another one. So just to show you that I know that you've got other stuff out there, and I'll come to that shortly. Death Becomes Her is hilarious. Yes, it is. You might guess from today's essay that I'm feeling better. Yeah, so much more viper in your tongue, young man. You may be older than me, but I am no whippling. But I love it. I'm just so glad that you're back, that you're enjoying life, that you're back to your moaning self, you miserable git. He knows I do it in jest. So my question, as Ubisoft exec has recently stated, that gamers need to get comfortable not owning games. How do you feel about this statement? I've touched upon it. I'm a big physical media person. I'm a big person that says, when I've paid that much money for it, I own it. I look at it like this. Back in the day, you got a board game. You know, it could be Snakes and Ladders, Ludo, chess, card games, solitaire, pontoon, poker. How would you like it that you get a pack of cards, you bring it home, and they say, but you're only renting those. They're ours still, and you're going to need to give them us back. No. Somebody, I do understand that it's a different medium, computer games and all that sort of stuff. And there's the intellectual property. But at the end of the day, I don't want to give 30 quid. It's a little bit, yeah, it's like the analogy of a sports club. You have every intention that you want to go to the gym to get better, and then you break your arm, and you speak to the gym and they say, oh no, you've paid 12-month membership, there's not an awful lot we can do, you can't stop, you can buy yourself out of your contract. You know, that's for these sports gyms that still operate as a 12-month thing, not the ones that do per visit or monthly. And those are still around. So you're going to have to pay even though you're not coming. Right? You've got to look at it and go, look, anybody can break their leg. It's not like you're trying to get out of something like, I just don't want to go because I'm a lazy bastard. So when it comes to games, I don't really want to keep filling the coffers of the coder that wrote it once. Somebody comes along after a company has gone broke and bought the rights to it, and then says buy it again. Because you had it digitally, it's now been removed from that company, but this other company has now come under our wing, and you're going to have to buy it again. You don't instantly get it back. No, 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 no. Bought that code once. It's mine to play on. It's not mine to physically make changes to, for me to sell on. I get that. It's why I understand in some ways what game is doing. But they're doing it from peer pressure from Microsoft. Microsoft are saying, we're going now down the digital route, so you won't be able to sell them anyway. So you might as well just stop your model of selling second-hand games. The servers are being shut down and all of that. But then we go back to the argument that I always said that I was a big champion of, which is good old games, where they wanted you to buy the games legit, but they're yours. You can download the install package. It's on your drive. And therefore, you can have it without having a window to load the game, and we won't be taking it away from your library, because we're giving you two options. You can play it within our front end, or you can download the installation package itself, and here is the activation code for it, because you've legitimately got it. That is more sensible to me. Okay, that's digital, but it's mine, and I can put it on a hard drive, and in 6 years' time, that file will still be there and it will still play. Can't do that with Steam. Can't do that with digital codes on PlayStation 5s, 4s, 3s. Nah. So, how do I feel about it? It's going to happen. Nothing I can do about it. I can sign as many petitions as I want. It's the way of the world. Am I happy about it? Nah. So that's the end of that, and I hope that's a good enough answer for you, because you're bound sure to dissect that and correct me. But remember, I'm thinking on the top of my, like instantly after reading the line without giving it much thought. I could come back in half an hour and have a different answer, or a much more worded and thoughtful answer, and backdated with actual fact from the web that proves what I was saying is right. Those, what I've just said, are opinions on the thoughts that are going through my head at the moment. So, I mean, I'm sure you recognise that, Colin. I'm just explaining away a little bit because I appreciate everything that you've done for me. I like to give a great answer. So thank you for that. And we're now moving on, and we move to what I've watched on YouTube. And to be quite honest, with work and everything, it's about as long as it was last week. It's got the normal stuff there. So we start off with the two that are always there, which is This Week in Retro and Techmoan. And to be quite honest, it was a bit of a mixed morning for me Saturday. Techmoan was there, brilliant. He talked about something that I didn't know too much about. Colin probably knows this right now. I didn't know much about it. It's a format called MQA CD. It's a codec form called MQA. It came out in 2018, and it was supposed to be compression for FLAC files. So it's sharp and as high dynamic a range as you could get from FLAC, but in a much more small form factor. And it was supposed to be incorporated into CDs. CDs were already on the down path in 2018. So why Japan was backing this, I don't know. But they brought out players. They brought out DAC systems for you to get the code out without actually having to have a special player. And back in 2018, a CD player that would play MQA would cost you over £1,000, and the DAC would be half of that, £500 odd. So you're talking about a very expensive medium. So Tecmo got hold of this and decided to do a bit of a depth thing on it. These things now cost far less. The DAC now is 50 or 60 quid. The player, a couple of hundred. The discs are still only in Japan, really. There are a couple over here on Amazon, but they're not clearly labelled as MQA. So he demonstrated it, and he tried to show how bright and as sharp the sound is, even though he says, my hearing can't pinpoint any difference, to be quite honest. And he couldn't do it. He put it through audiology, compared the waveform, moved them over each other to look at the highs and lows of the frequency. Couldn't see much, if any. So I always look at those things as going, yeah, but you probably need higher end equipment to do this. You probably need higher end software as well as equipment to do it. It is going beyond frequencies of your ears, but I like the fact that he just turned around and said, hey, if it's beyond my ears, I don't really care. And I'm a bit like that. I'm getting older, so my hearing's not getting better. So anything that's sharper is great. But if I can't pick up that extra frequencies, then tough. It brings to mind the first time that I bought these Samsung Galaxy 2 earbud things, right? You put them in a Samsung phone, you set them up, and it goes for a frequency test as if you'd gone for an ear test at your doctor's. It pushes through high frequency to the point where it says, did you hear that? Did you hear that? You kept tapping and saying, yes, I heard it. Yes, I heard it. To the point where you can't, you went, no. And it stops. And it sets those earbuds up for your ears, which is great. And I've got so much benefit on listening to my soundtracks through these Galaxy Buds, knowing that I've done that test. It's probably not a great test. It's probably a waste of time. I'm probably talking bollocks, but it worked for me. So that was MQA CD, and it was a very interesting 20 odd minutes. 20 minutes of your time to learn something new. Brilliant. This week in retro was more mixed. They did what they call, this was what it was called. These are the titles: OG Doom or Doom Delta. Apparently they've gone back to the well with Doom, and they've brought things in that were cut out and put them back in, stitched them back in, sort of like a director's cut. Great. It's another story about Doom. That's all I could say about that, really. Krusty the Mac. If anybody doesn't know what Krusty the Mac is, it's a long story that's been going on the internet in regards to a Mac that was found buried in the ground that still worked when you switched it on without doing anything to it, that they've tried to destroy it in many different ways and then see if they could bring it back to life. So they've put it back in the ground, they've kept it out in the rain, and finally I think they put it in water for 18 months to the point where it was going to freeze, and they pulled it out because freezing it would basically add pressure to the metal plates. So they pulled it out, and finally it didn't work. But like a zombie, they decided to solder parts that would now been rusted off or had dry joints or had been eaten away, and it works again. So there we are, the story of Krusty the Mac. Brilliant. And then there was a section called Hassling the Hoff. That's because they had a guest on, and it just happened to be the programmer of an Amiga game called I'll have to read my own writing here. Seconoid. That's right. It's sort of like a Cybernoid game from what I could see. Black and white. Lots of particle effects. Bits of colour. Looks really good. I never really was a big Cybernoid fan, though. I loved it back in the day, but when I tried to go back to it, I see it as moving from screen to screen, pick up this, pick up that, fire at a few things. And I've moved on a little bit. So I will definitely be one of those ones that will be watching it for when it comes out, probably buy it. But it'll be one of those ones where I'm recognising the effort put into it rather than the complexity and the niceness of the game. There's a number of things like that, where I'll mention another one for the Amiga in a moment. So we move forward now from This Week in Retro and Tech Mode, because they're always my mainstays, and we move to cold beer. Cold beer has been my mainstay now for Steam sales. So for the last 4 months, each week he'll bring in what's going on in the sales. And so far, Steam has not had a day or a week go by since just before Christmas and Black Friday when there isn't a sale going on. And I'm talking not little publisher sales, major sales. There's a publisher sale going on now, but it's mixed in with some major sales that are going on. They're still selling them, even though we're past Christmas. Brilliant. But it's very hard for me to catch up. And I then appreciate this guy telling me what the new price is and whether he thinks that it's worth buying now, because he also recognizes whether it's cheaper than it was at Christmas or not. So definitely cold beer, definitely worth a watch if you're interested in fanatical sales, humble bundle sales, and all of that sort of stuff, and that you want more games than cents. And my brain is like that at the moment. I want more games than cents. But I'll come back to my game playing at the end. GQ. Don't really listen to GQ. I don't read GQ, but this came up in my alert. It was Kurt Russell breaks down his iconic characters in films. And Kurt Russell is one of those ones where I think he's very underrated, because there was a point where you couldn't move without seeing a Kurt Russell film. There was Escape from New York, The Thing, he did Elvis, a lot of John Carpenter stuff there. And then you sort of like see him slip into mainstream to the point where he was virtually then unheard of, and then made a comeback. And if you look at his time stream, some of these iconic characters, he was talking about The Thing, and he was saying basically The Thing is a paranoia film. And the things that he had to do was a lot of him inside that character. And he then starts talking about what the media wanted him to do when he was going to interviews, which was a bit of a shock, because he'd done Elvis, the film Elvis, a biographical film in the late 70s, early 80s. And media interviews would ask him to sort of like go into his Elvis persona for the interview, which he had to clearly point out and say, this took months for me to get into the psyche of being Elvis. You don't just slip into it. Yes, I could change my voice, but at the end of the day, this is what I did the film for. And it's a part. I've done that part now. You talk to me now as the person that wants to talk about how difficult it was to do an Elvis film, not for me to slip into my persona, which I got paid to do. I got paid to do that. Don't want to do anything else. Huge things like that are the reason why I loved that interview and him talking about his characters. And it's definitely an eye-opener. There's stuff about Tombstone in there, which he was brilliant in the 90s. Brilliant. Just watch that. And then one last one before we move into the films. This one is film related, but it was a channel called Ungraduated Media. And what it was, Carrie has just come out, and it boded the question, what version have I got? Because Scream Factory did a 4K version of the film Carrie 5 years ago. And then Arrow Media this month have brought out a 4K version of Carrie this month. Which one are they? Well, the question is, are they both the same, or did they go back to the negative, or did they take Scream Factor's version and clean that up? You don't know. So therefore, is it worth it? It will, if you're talking about it might have one documentary more, you're forking out £30 for that. So you really need to know from the back of the box, what are you getting yourself into? Because If they've gone back to the negative, fair enough. They've done the whole thing again, and it'll be a different, it'll be a different restoration. But if it's, I've gone to Screen Factory's copy and cleaned that up, then you're going, well, that's just a different aspect of restoration. You might have highlighted a few colours here and there. And it goes on and on and on. Very interesting take. Shows you examples and then comes up with a conclusion on which one is the better. And you might be surprised by the answer. So that's great. So then we move on to my friends in the film side of things. And I'm part of those because films is also a big part of my retro nature. So we moved to Rock God. Rock God, he's been doing some interviews, like live streams, should I say, rather than interviews, live streams. But he did do his a new addition to his Jaws collection. Jaws is very big for Rock God, and I'm so glad that he's got a particular film that he can concentrate on, because that's pretty much where my film collection started from. I had so many films that I wanted to collect for, but I always had in the back of my head two things that were big to me, and those were big because I was still in my teens, because this was VHS era, and I was just going to secondary school. So Doctor Who and Star Trek and Star Wars were the three main things. So I had somewhere to start, and then I drifted off into other science fiction films, other horror films, other comedy films, and so forth, until you've then suddenly got a full spectrum of emotions that you can just buy and watch. So Jaws is his. It fits in with his horror mold, because it is a horror. It's a thriller horror. Can't doubt that. And he collects as much as he can for it. Tea towels, posters, vinyl, CDs, different cues in MP3 format, VHS versions, Laserdisc versions, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, booklets, books. It goes on and on and on till you can set up a shrine. Take it like that. And he's definitely heading towards there. Definitely worth a sub. Definitely worth going to watch. Rock God, number 1. Euphoria Pictures. Well, what can you say about Keith? I haven't spoken to him since I helped him with getting a 4K last year. I hope that will change soon. But he did a tour of his second movie room. That's right, he's got 2 movie rooms. And the second one is as big as the first. My God, it was filled with DVDs. So there's his main room, and it's got 4Ks and Blu-rays and a mix of other things and busts and stuff. You move into this second room, and it's equally filled with bookshelves full of DVDs and sort of like the older Blu-rays that he's probably got an upgrade in 4K, but he didn't want to keep the Blu-ray in his main room. You get such an insight on people when they do this, because you see the order that they put their stuff in. Some people put things in alphabetical order, some people put things in studio order, some people put things in actor order, some people put things in director's orders. So you get a very big insight when somebody lets you into their life, and it's very, very sensitive, that, because what you got to understand is there's not many people that will open a door and let a salesman into your house, let alone let the world go and look at your room. So just remember that every time that I do my blog, every time I turn the camera on, I'm opening myself to telling the world me and a little bit of me. Definitely worth a watch. He then did an unboxing of gifts, because he gets gifts through the post. Some of these people deserve these gifts. Absolutely spot on. And some of them come from so far abroad I didn't even know they were out. And then he did an unboxing of a film that I'd love to have, but it's just too expensive. I'm so disappointed by that. But he's got a steel book that I'd really like. It's a gorgeous looking steel book of the remake of the film The Blob. Now, The Blob came out by Steve McQueen in the 50s, 60s, 50s, yeah, 50s. That they made an 80s version or early 90s with much better effects, but basically the same sort of story. And this one company, I believe, in the States has brought out a high definition version of the Blob and done a steelbook case of it. But the price of it plus the postage would be too much for me. I've got to wait until it's sort of like the bog standard version that comes out, if it ever does. These are special one-offs that when they're gone, they're gone. And unless they become mainstream, you're not going to see them. Very, very jealous of his collection. Very jealous of that one film being a sci-fi horror. Well done on him. And Keith, I look forward to maybe a future live stream with you when time and the panel allows. We get to Ian Hill, The Ramblings. Now, you know we've just spoken about Ian Hill, The Ramblings. Brilliant. He continues with his stuff. He's done Doctor Who reviews, X-File reviews. He did a review of Rear Window, which is a fave of mine, of Hitchcock's. I think it's my third favourite, Rear Window. And amongst others, you know, he continues to do not the Hammer House of Horror, but the Hammer House of Horror Mystery and Suspense, which was a follow-on TV show. And like I say, the guy just keeps going on and on and on, and it's not on and on in a bad way. It's so informative. You get to learn about directors, when it came out, what was happening in the year, his personal reminiscing of that particular thing when he was watching it. Oh, so much stuff. And you've got to respect people of an age like me, you know, my age, and people of like Ian. We were at a time where these things that we were watching on TV were of an influential time for us, you know, in the early 80s, late 70s. So our brains were soaking this up, and we still can see it like it was yesterday, where I can't even remember what I had for my dinner last night, but I can remember what I watched in 1974. It's weird how your brain works. We move to Did You See That? Thank you very much, Ian. You know I appreciate all your stuff. Did you see that? Masterful guy who brings out so much content. I think there's a content every day. He did a live stream last night. He did a steelbook unboxing where he bought 5 steelbooks for a pittance from Zavi, opened them up for everybody to see, and is giving a competition giveaway. And then did a review of a film called Blue Giant. So a new film for this year. So it's worth going to him just to see whether it's, you know, a critique's view of a film that's only just come out this weekend. Maybe you're thinking about having a nice weekend watching a film and going out to the cinema for the first time since COVID. Go visit this site. Go watch his review. See if it's worth spending that 20 or 30 quid that it's going to eventually cost you for the ticket, the popcorn, the drink, and your girlfriend or your boyfriend. See if it's worth it. And then we've got a new one to the channel, but not new to me and not new as a friend, and that's Sammy G's World of Pictures. He's decided to start something on YouTube, and he's just done his 4th video. And I mentioned him last week, and he's doing his Blu-ray collection, and he's up to part 4. And if anything, like if it was to be my collection, this will go on for absolutely ages. The only thing that I would say to Sammy at the moment is the next video I would do would probably be something different. Break this up a little bit. Everybody loves to see these collections, but the trouble is that they then turn into a list after a while. And you really want to hear your thoughts on other things like vinyl, music, a one particular title that you concentrate on why it's important to you, rather than the snippet advice of what you would see by showing up a case. It's why I've shied away from them too much, and why I only show at the end of this blog what I've bought, because it's really for my nephews to know how much it cost me, why I bought it, and that I've now got it in my collection. So that if anything happened to me and they inherited everything that I've got, at least they know why I got it, how much it cost me, and everything else, and whether it's worth possibly buying. I will be doing time capsule reviews. I've done a couple, but that's the reason why those are at the end. Plus, you get to see some nice trailers. And that's the end of watching on YouTube. And we move to the last page, which is your stuff on YouTube. That's my friends that are subscribers to me, that are I've befriended by a mutual friend, Mainmeister, etc., etc. So we've got Down the Rabbit Hole, and as I told you that he does 2 or 3 videos, he did 2 this week, and I'm sure he did that to foil me, because I mentioned 3. He did it on purpose. Anyway, the 2 this week are, this game, Sable, runs choppy on my PS5, which was an interesting video because Sable is an old game, but after a year of being in the PlayStation 5 library, it's now become a free game. You know, you get, if you're a member of the PlayStation Network, which most people are, which have got a console, you get a couple of games every month that you can keep. And Sable just happens to be one of those. And Sable is one of those ones that I feel worse for the people that bought it on the PlayStation, because it came out as a full price game. And the developers never developed a patch for the choppy nature of the code. It has not been optimized. So it's buggy, it's choppy. Frame rate skips. The Xbox got a patch. Steam version got a patch. PlayStation 5 didn't. So I'm not surprised really that Sony want to give this out for free, because the developers don't give a shit. And that's bad. Now, Kev doesn't go quite down that line. He goes down the why is it like this? Why have I got such a powerful machine and it's like this? And the only thing I can think of really to answer that, and it's totally from experience or my own opinion, is that they just ported the code across and they didn't bother looking to see whether the makeup of the hardware of the PS5 was any different to anybody else. And they didn't bother therefore optimizing it. And they therefore had a product that was really poor, piss poor. So those people that bought it full price, I'm so sorry. Companies shouldn't be like that, and I feel for you. I've been caught like that. Bought a game, buggy as hell. They don't recall it. You're just stuck with it. Especially around the days of the Commodore 64, Spectrum, all of those. You got a game. Generally though, they were of a higher quality. I found there was a bug that destroyed it. There would be a magazine that told you how to actually get it working again. But these days, I keep thinking that we're just bug testers. Even the operating system I'm running at the moment, you know, Windows, is handed out in a buggy mess that only gets rectified by you pointing it out and then recoding a patch. So you've basically become a bug tester for a product that costs you money. No, I ain't a bug tester. Pay me money, I'll bug test it. Yeah, give me the money. I'll do a bug test report for you. No a problem. And then his second video was Dungeons and Dragons. Have I been lied to in regards to shields? So that's interesting if you're into D&D. It's interesting if you're into computer games. If you play a computer game and somebody's got a shield, they're much harder to kill than somebody that doesn't. Yeah, in Dungeons and Dragons, you only get so many class points or shield points. And it really sometimes makes you wonder, is it worth having one? Because of the way that the dice roll works. Very interesting thing to talk about, discuss, or learn about, which is why I wholeheartedly recommend Down the Rabbit Hole this week. 2 very interesting, contrasting videos. Then we get our royalty person, Robert's Retro Gaming. What can I say? He's already told you how he's doing things. He's finished a lot of these videos, but they're coming out in, segments. So, just to read it out, Minecraft in Exile is up to episode 107. Euphoria is up to episode 20. His 8-bit games he brought out this week are Star Gunner, Blue Thunder, Dispatch Rider, Match Racer, the Beans Machine, and Canny Bags, I think that says. Just totaling those up means he must have done 1 or 2 a day. Definitely worthwhile. There's the Atari 400 Mini coming out, and his channel is going to be a godsend to you if you ever think about buying that Mini. Sub him now is the best advice I can give. Then we've got David's Retro Games Played Badly, who this month has done some pickups. And he decided that it's been far too long since Christmas where he did a video, that he'd decided to get off his arse, move his camera around a bit, and show off some of the pickups. Well, good for you. I love your videos. You don't do enough of them. And it was very informative and showed me an insight on a collector's vision and what he tries to do with collecting his games. Everybody's vision is different. Some of them is, I'm going to get everything. Some of them are, I'm going to get everything by this company. Some of them go, I'm going to get everything by this coder. Some of them are going to get everything that includes the music done by this musician. It goes on and on and on. So it's very great to see how close David is to ending his collection, and where he will turn around and say, I'm done. I know that'll probably never happen with me. I haven't got that strength. It's like, I'm still going to go and buy that. Don't care. Buy it for the 8th time. Who gives a shit? Terrible I am. Then we've got Colin Jones, who we mentioned earlier, and I really ought to do a topic on Colin, because he's so like me when in my 20s. I look at it like that. I was so burning to tell people this, that, the other, that I just did it, forgoing all the consequences. And if you've got that knowledge, you can be that confident. I'm not that confident. I'll talk about it. I'll give you my advice on it. I'll give you what I know of it. I'm not saying that there isn't better information out there. So definitely, if you want an insight, bookmark Colin Jones. By the way, most of these are in my description. You don't need to go looking. They're there. And this week he did a blog, a cycling adventure, and the third one, which he said that there were only 2. Ha ha ha. He did a Pi-Storm 32 Stunt Car Racer TNT compatibility test and fix. Sounds like a gobbledygook thing here, but he's got a Pi-Storm, and he loads Amiga stuff in to see if it's compatible, finds it's not, and then tries to fix that. And in this particular instance, it was Stunt Car Racer, which he beautifully told how he needed to do that, because not everything is 100% compatible when you buy it out the box. When it comes to emulation, you expect a number of things, and some of those things are, does it work properly? For the majority, it's a good enough, but for a minority, it's no, and we don't think we ever will be able to, but that isn't going to stop us from keep trying. So definitely worth a sub, a like, and a look for Colin Jones. And then we've got my mate Mainmeister, and he's done another one of his demos where he showed off a mind-blowing demo on the Commodore 64, which is doing very well in the numbers. He did a Sunday live stream. I think it was part 3 of the Amiga. I think it's the end. I don't know what he's doing for tonight. He hasn't said. What's in the Box is a 3rd installment of something he started many years ago, where he opens up a box of stuff that he's bought that's now stored away, and just look at it and reminisce about it. You know, like the reason why he bought it, why it's not in the box now, what he used it for, what, you know, etc., etc. And then his normal Friday waffle, which had a rant in it, which I totally agree with. I don't want to spoil it for you. You need to go and watch the waffle. But basically, a friend of his was, for the better terminology that I can give it, is he was roasted. Okay, if you've ever wanted to know what a celebrity roast is, go and look at that. But the guy was invited onto a chat type live stream, which would give you so much confidence and so much pleasure. You know, it's like, oh wow, I'm going to go on and can't believe they've asked me. And basically, they tore him a new arsehole, took him to bits, laughed at him, joked at him, not with him, at him. And Mainmeister wanted to voice out these guys. And that's where I'm totally 100% backing when it comes to people like Mainmeister. Because there's no point doing a lot of things like this. There's no point trying to hurt someone to get money. And these guys were getting money for it. Like, there's been a few people that I've got to know on the film side of things just recently. And there was a time where I thought they were friends and they lied through their teeth. They got caught out. There's no naming and shaming at this stage because, to me, they were sad to try and do it. They can go rot as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, that really brings the end of the blog in note format. Other than Seb. I forgot about Seb. Seb did a video this week that's definitely worth your time. He wants some input from us about Commodore 64 games that weren't on the Spectrum that are worth his while playing. Definitely go to his channel because I'll tell you what, the production values are brilliant. This particular one grabbed my interest because it's the Commodore 64. And it also sparks that topic, why was it an exclusive on the Commodore 64 and not on the Spectrum? Or why did the Spectrum do exactly the same thing, an exclusive on the Spectrum, and it just didn't turn up on the Commodore 64? And the mixed results if it ever did. So I'd like you to go there, and I'd like you to do that because I'd like you to help him out by mentioning your own, oh, I played this and it wasn't on the Spectrum, and why you loved it. Because it gives him some inspiration to expand that topic. So then what we'll do then is we'll change camera and start going through what I've bought this week. And there's quite a bit. Well, better than it's been the other week. So we'll switch to Galaxy Cam, which is my phone, basically, just used as a camera. The image isn't too bad, you know, from a phone. You know, it's a phone from 4 years ago, and it's, you know, not too bad. It gives a much wider angle. So the stuff that came this week was All Quiet on the Western Front, a steelbook from a film that was shown on Netflix, which I thought was brilliant. There's the back of it. It's a gorgeous looking steelbook. It's embossed, sort of like spot glossing on there, and just lovely to look at. And then of course the film is gorgeous with it. I mean, I did see that actually on Netflix, so I know what I'm getting myself into. Then there's that film I was talking about earlier, Carrie. Carrie's one of those unusual ones. I didn't buy it on Screen Factory. I bought it on the Arrow release. And that's because I've got a greater appreciation of it now that I've started thinking about horror a bit more. It is a Brian De Palma film, so that basically instantly pricks my ears up as going, oh yeah, I forgot it was directed by him. It's the first film I think John Travolta was in. Another plus. The other thing about it is it's a sort of like a supernatural version of a coming of age film. Carrie is one of those girls that's hated, picked upon, and is going through a period in her life where she's turning into a woman and all the things that go on with that. So there are boyfriends that she'd like to be with and they scorn her. There are girls that are around her that are jealous of her or just are mean to her, and her body is changing. But at the same time as her body is changing, Brian De Palma, or the writer of Carrie, what was that? Is it Stephen King? Yeah. Added a telekinesis part to it. And all manner of things happen in the film on watching it. So it's one that I was glad to go back to, and definitely worth a watch. And then there's just a fan favourite of mine that I've always bought. I've bought it on steelbook, laserdisc, VHS, and now twice on 4K. This is the Criterion recent edition of Thelma and Louise, which is in a gorgeous slipcover. Really, really nice. It's a Criterion collection, so you're bound sure to get a lot with this release. And it's a Ridley Scott film that I believe a lot of people should watch. There are Ridley Scott films that people will go slow paced, boring, la 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 la. Whichever way you look at it, Ridley Scott remains a visual director. You look at Alien and it's visual. You look at Blade Runner, it's visual. You look at Thelma and Louise, it's visual. You're going through the Arizona desert, taking in all those mountains, seeing those long shots of the roads. It's a way a road trip should be, but with a story from a woman's perspective. It's got a great story as well in there. I don't think there's much to say about Thelma and Louise. It won an Oscar, take it like that. So there we go. Now the next thing is a book. I'm just going to show you this book first, because there are these volumes called The Ultimate Newspaper Comic Collection of Spider-Man. Now this one's volume 4. I've got all the other volumes. There are 5 in total at the moment. What happened in the States is that Spider-Man didn't not only conquered what he needed to do in his own comic, and also spread himself out to other countries, where you've got the German version of Spider-Man, which is called Despini, and you've got a Mexican version, and you've got an Indian version, all slightly different. Some are reproductions, some of them are their own thing. That Stan Lee was approached and said, would you like to do a daily comic strip of Spider-Man in a newspaper? Now the problem with that was it was only in the States, so there was a Spider-Man story going on in the same universe that I couldn't read. So every day there would be, a comic strip, and I'll show you a particular page here, just like that. And you see those panels are split into 3 there. That would have been each day. So top one would be Monday, the bottom one would be Tuesday, the third one would be Wednesday. It's a bit like Garfield and all of that, the funnies. And these newspaper strips started in 1977. This particular book takes you to 1984, but I've got them all so far. But like anything, I tell you, I buy the artwork of my favourite artist, and this is John Romita. So it just happens that IDW have brought out another one of these big books. This is the size of it. My God. There we go. Huge thing it is. Right. John Romita's artwork, as he would draw it on the board. This is the size of it. That's how big the panels would be when he's drawing it on his draft board. And to put it into context, that is a blown up edition of the newspaper, so you can see how small it is. And the newspaper would be even smaller. It would be 3 panels. It would be literally 5 inches. So I just wanted to show that off, because that is in it. I'm really looking forward to opening that up and looking at my favourite artist's interpretation of Spider-Man back in 1977, because it was the last thing he generally did before he retired, because he became what they call art director for Marvel, and therefore only did one-off covers and stuff and the odd tribute book. So that's showing off a little bit of what I bought. When it comes to games, I'm totally smitten by a game that came out a week and a half ago called Enshrouded. It's basically Valheim. So I don't need to go into it too much to a lot of people. It is a survival crafting game, but it's one of those ones where I didn't like it at first because it was just Valheim. But after 2 hours, I was hooked. And then 2 hours turned into going onto my Steam library and putting it on for 1 hour at a time each day this week. And that I've not done for a long time. Usually I'd play at the weekend, Monday would come along and I'd put it on. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I wouldn't go back to it. By the time Saturday comes along, I've forgotten about the game and I've moved on, which is generally what happens because work takes over and so does normal life. So that sort of like brings me to the end of that. We've got the trailers to do, but there was one other comment that was made, and I think it was probably in one of my live streams, so I'm going to have a little look for it because I wanted to address it. If I can't find it, I'll drop it. It might well be that it's been removed. I don't remove, by the way, any comments, but I do know that some people think that I do, but I don't. So I'm going to see if I can find it. And I probably won't be able to, but I'll try. It could have been in here, actually. No. I'll give you the gist. There was a guy that he said I'd hate his comment. And I apologise now because I didn't hate his comment at all. It's just I don't agree with part of what he was saying. And I'm still looking for it now, by the way. So I do apologise. But it was very interesting what he put. See if I can find it. Right, I'll give up now. The gist of it is that he stated that he'd been watching my blogs for a while, and that he got great enjoyment out of them, but he wanted to give me a bit of advice, and there was 3 bits of advice, and 2 of them, were just general. Try not to take to heart people, try not to people please too much, all of that sort of stuff. But he mentioned, always remember that your mum is not your priority, you are priority. For which I needed to address because where I can understand the sentiment behind that, everybody has their own priority. And as far as I'm concerned, my mum is number 1. She spent all those early years giving up everything that she wanted to get me through life. And at the end of her life, she needs help. And what this guy is trying to imply, possibly, is that I should abandon that with my mum and concentrate more on me a little bit. And where I go, yes, I don't do enough for me. My mum will be number 1 until she dies. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing will change my mind with that. Anybody that wants to comment on that, go ahead and do so. You'll never waver this. I lost my dad. I'd give everything to have my dad back. When my mum goes, I'm alone. And then to say your mum is not your priority, I even have to break that down and say you're wrong on every count. But I do understand the sentiment, and I do understand, yeah, there is a point where you have to turn around and say you need to do something for yourself, and that's where I get it. But to that guy, really do appreciate the comment, and I really do agree with, well, there was 80% of it that I agreed. It's just that when it comes to priorities, I think to try and say to somebody else, you got your priorities wrong, I think is wrong. I'd never address that with you. I'd never turn around if I knew about you and say, you got your priorities wrong. Because I haven't lived your life. You don't know my life. You know what I know through my blogs. And so I don't want to come across as a rant, because everything that this guy said was so sentimental and nice that, you know, on why I wouldn't remove the comment. But I will say this. He said he's been watching for a while, but he'd only been a member for about 3 months. But then again, he might have other channels. So whoever you are, I appreciate it. I hope you continue to watch. Really did love you know, the aspects of what you were saying. It's just that my opinion, and it's a very, very strong one, which is why I brought it up, is that my mother will always be number one. If I needed to do something and she came up to me and said, "Oh, son, I've stubbed my toe, will you help me?" I'm not going to turn around and go, "Bog off, jog on, got something I'm doing for myself." You know what I mean? It'll be, my mum says, "Jump," and I go, "How high?" And that's how it will be in the later part of her life. And with that, I've ended on a bit of a downer. I'm going to show the trailers now for some of the things that I normally do. So let's go to media playback, shall we? Let's get things set up. Bit messy at the end, so I apologise. So there we go. We're back to the familiar looking thing. I'm going to shut up, which I think is about time. And I'm going to let you watch a few trailers of the films that I've watched this week or bought. Hope you enjoy them. Hope they don't get blocked.
It's the night of the senior prom. The Bates High School gym is alive with excitement. Everybody is there, even Carrie White, the girl no one likes.
We're all sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
And everyone makes fun of her. The girl who lives in that creepy house with her crazy mother.
Help the sinning woman see the sin of her days and ways. Show her that if she had remained sinless, the curse of blood would never have come on her.
The girl with the strange power.
If I concentrate hard enough, I can move things.
But tonight, no one will laugh at Carrie.
If you don't have a date for the prom next Friday, would you like to go with me?
She's with the best-looking boy in the senior class.
He's trying to trick me again.
She'll be voted queen of the prom.
You know, I can make sure that you don't hurt Carrie White anymore.
For Carrie, it will be a dream come true. For everyone else, it will be a nightmare. Carrie. A new film by Brian De Palma. Based on the chilling bestseller. Starring Sissy Spacek, Piper Laurie, and introducing John Travolta in his first motion picture role. If you have a taste for terror, you have a date with Carrie.
Thelma.
I'll get it!
Thelma, have not told you I can't stand it when you holler in the morning?
I'm sorry, doll. I just didn't want you to be late.
Hey, how you doing, little housewife?
Louise.
Now, I still have to ask Daryl if I can go.
You mean you haven't asked him yet? Thelma, is he your husband or your father?
Thelma and Louise are going fishing.
How come Daryl let you go?
Because I didn't ask him.
He's gonna kill you!
I left him a note.
Thelma and Louise are going to catch hell.
I'll have a wild turkey straight up and a Coke back, please.
Thelma!
Oh, what? Tell me something. Is this my vacation or isn't it? Did you see his butt?
Thelma, have you lost your mind? I'm investigator Hal Slocum, Arkansas State Police. You get your butt back here, Thelma, now.
As you know, we've tapped your phone.
What?
Maybe you got a few too many parking tickets?
Tell me what happened.
You're getting in deeper every moment you're gone.
You want to step back and get in your car again, please?
I swear, 3 days ago, neither one of us would have ever pulled a stunt like this, but if you was ever to meet my husband, you'd understand why.
What?
Louise, shoot the radio. The police radio, Louise.
Got it.
Thelma and Louise.
How do you like the vacation so far?
Deutsche Sozialdemokraten, unser geliebtes Volk wehrlos machen.
Wir bleiben zusammen, ja, Paul? Wir bleiben zusammen.
Ich habe Angst vor dem, was kommt.
For 400 years, golf has been a gentleman's game. A game of tradition, etiquette, and above all, sportsmanship. Until now.
Y'all ready for this?
Meet Happy Gilmore. He was a hockey player.
That's my puck, baby! Don't you ever touch my puck!
Who was skating on thin ice. But when his grandma needed his help...
Mrs. Gilmore owes the IRS $270,000. We're gonna have to sell the house to someone else.
But she's an old lady. I mean, look at her. She's old.
He discovered a new talent.
The house is like 400 yards away. That's unbelievable.
Now he's going from the rinks...
Step right up, folks! See if you can outdrive the amazing golf ball whacker guy.
to the links.
Hey, where you going with those clubs, punk? I'm your caddy.
He's gonna be on the tour. That's super.
He's got the swing. He's got the drive.
He shoots, he scores!
He's got the balls.
Oh, God, that hurt a little, but I'm all right.
Quite a large and economically diverse crowd here at the Invitational. I guess it's the new tour sensation, Happy Gilmore.
Hey, if I saw myself in clothes like those, I'd have to kick my own ass.
And while he's trying to keep Granny out of the rest home,
I'm telling you, this place is perfect. You're gonna make friends in no time.
he's driving the game of golf.
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Straight into the ground.
Damn you people, this is golf!
I'm Bob Barker. Looks like you and I are going to be playing together today.
This guy sucks.
All right, let's go.
Universal Pictures presents Adam Sandler
The price is wrong, Bob.
as golf's missing link, Happy Gilmore.
There we go. Yeah. Some interesting films there, and I put Happy Gilmore there because I watched that last night when I was doing my blog and just remembering Carl Weathers. So that was great. Yeah, I had some fantastic experiences this week. Not only have I been playing that game, but I did a watch along with my friends Ryan Rockgod and Scott, the movie critic. We watched Island of Death, and although that sounds very morbid, it's a film from the 70s. Well, it's one of those video nasties, so late 70s, early 80s. And when you look at it in the context of it is, you laugh, but then when you see the gore and the blood in it, it's quite shocking. So it ended up being a very entertaining watch, because while you've got other people watching it with you, you can see their face and you go, oh wow, that really shocked them, or look at the stupidity in the whole of what the shot is trying to do by the director. So yeah, usually those watch-alongs are on every Tuesday. So if you do get some time to have a little look, by all means, come along. And with that, I'm going to shut up and give you your weekend back. My God, it was supposed to be a short one today. Please be good to yourselves. Have a great week. And hopefully, I'll see you next week, where there'll be something new, something special, something to watch anyway. Something to definitely listen to. Bye-bye. Salute.